Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Rural Rapport. I'm your host, Teresa Hoffman, a Senior Communications Associate with the Center for Rural Affairs. Access to reliable and affordable high-speed internet continues to be a challenge, especially in rural areas, and its absence denies residents, industries, and small businesses a vital service. While discussions surrounding the need to improve access had already begun, the COVID-19 pandemic clarified the importance even more as Americans work to stay connected both to each other and to vital community, education, and government services. Today, state and federal programs are working to address the lack of access and reliability. The Broadband Equity, Access, and Deployment Program, or BEAD, is one such effort. BEAD provides federal funding for broadband planning, deployment, mapping, equity, and adoption activities. With each state responsible for administering its own program, the legislature approved the creation of the Nebraska Broadband Office in 2023. Joining me to talk more about the work being done to bring BEAD funds to Nebraska and how you can help with the next step in the process is Rachel Kilcoin, External Affairs Manager for the Nebraska Broadband Office. Rachel, thank you for joining me.
Thanks, Teresa. It's an honor to be here and thankful to you and your organization for the opportunity to spread awareness to rural Nebraska about what we're doing.
Well, great. We'll start. Can you share the history of the Nebraska Broadband Office? What's its role in helping improve access to reliability and affordable high-speed internet service here in the state?
Absolutely. So our office was created by an executive order back in January of 2023, so not too long ago. And then it was signed into law by LB 863 on May 26, and that was to administer the federal BEAD program you mentioned in the state of Nebraska, as well as the responsibility to create and maintain the Nebraska State Broadband Map. At the time, Patrick Redmond was tagged as interim director as a nationwide search for a permanent director began. So then last June, Patrick Haggerty was appointed and Patrick Redmond became our deputy director. Since then, Diane Lowe was hired on as our grants and budget administrator and myself as the external affairs manager. We are budgeted for a total of 10 positions office-wide, and we still have a few positions left to fill.
So great. Well, take me back to the start of the BEAD program I mentioned above here in Nebraska. When did that begin, and what is the end goal?
So the BEAD program, it is a federal program administered by the NTIA, the National Telecommunications and Information Administration. Nebraska was awarded $405 million. Now, this is federal funds with the mandate to connect all the unserved locations to high-speed internet by 2029. Just for some clarification, so our locations are broken into 3 tiers as defined by NTIA: served, underserved, and served. Served is considered a speed equal or greater to 100 megabytes down and 20 megabytes per second up. Underserved is that middle category of somewhere between 25 megabytes down and 3 up, and 100 down and 20 up. And unserved is defined as anything with connectivity speeds under 25 megabytes per second down and 3 up. So we are optimistic, even though our mandate is that we have to cover all of the unserved locations. We are optimistic that this funding will actually be enough to cover all of the underserved as well. We will begin to allocate our grant fundings to providers later this year.
Well, great. And I know that getting to the end goal and this process has been a multi-step process. So take me through that. What's been done so far?
It is a lot of steps. So to start off, last year, we completed our 5-year plan. That was our first step, and that was submitted and approved by NTIA last August. Then came our initial proposals, volumes 1 and 2. Both were submitted last year, separate times, but they both got submitted last year, and we received NTIA approval on volume 1 in late February of this year. And we are currently curing or making making the recommended changes to volume 2 as we speak. Last year also, as an effort to engage stakeholders and the public, We toured the state multiple times, seeking comment on these documents and incorporating those comments into the documents prior to submitting them. And then with the approval of Volume 1 this February, that allows us to move to the next step, which is our challenge period.
And that's what you're currently in, correct?
Yes, that is where we're
Okay.
at today.
So March 15th, your office announced the next step, and you're once again seeking the public's assistance. So tell me about that process.
Sure. So the challenge process, or more formally, the Nebraska Broadband Availability Map Challenge. It's an opportunity for all Nebraskans to participate in this program. The goal is to ensure the accuracy of the data on our map. So we're asking to make sure that we are appropriately funding the right addresses. We're asking everyone to go look at our map, check their residence, their business or their business address, and confirm if the services listed on the map are correct. Are the providers that are listed available to you and at the speeds that are reported? If you believe there's an error on the data, then you can contact, as we are calling them, an advocate to submit a challenge on your behalf to get the data corrected. Advocates can only be these local or tribal units of government, nonprofits, or internet service providers themselves. We do have registered advocates and their contacts listed by county on our website.
And where can folks find the map to look, to test, to find out if their service is correct?
So the map is publicly viewable on our website at broadband.nebraska.gov.
Okay, yeah, and I'll include a link to that below for people to click on and go ahead and take that step. So throughout this process, you've asked for public input and review of the broadband map. Why is that important for Nebraskans to weigh in and to kind of review that information?
So yes, public input is necessary and helpful for a few reasons. First, NTIA requires it. Secondly, it really helps engage the public with our office. They can't engage if they're not aware of what we're doing or what our goal is. And that engagement's been very productive for a very young office like ours to understand firsthand the variety of challenges Nebraskans with poor or no quality internet face. Finally, the outcome of the map at the end of this process ultimately dictates what is eligible for BEAD funding. Anything that is labeled as served, as indicated by a green dot on our map, will be ineligible for BEAD funding. So that, yeah.
Yeah,
so
and I
really
believe I read somewhere. Yeah, I believe I read somewhere that each state was allocated a certain amount of funds. Is this process helping increase or making more funds available?
It won't actually change the funding available. It will just, it'll just be how we allocate it when we get to the grants.
So for this step, residents who want to submit a challenge will contact a designated advocate. You've mentioned some of those before. The Center for Rural Affairs is also one of them. And those folks will submit on behalf of the person contacting them. So why accept challenges that way instead of having Nebraskans do that themselves?
Yeah, I understand. It's not the clearest or easiest way for the average citizen to participate in the challenge. The process was prescribed to us ultimately by the NTIA. And I can say the limitation is really because of a licensing requirement. It requires certain licenses. There's an NTIA Tier E or Tier D license that organizations have to get in order to access the portal where the challenges are submitted. And that's because the data inside the portal is considered confidential and therefore has to be, the access to that information has to be restricted.
But it's still vital and important in your opinion, I think,
Absolutely.
to get those challenges made and
yes.
through those agencies.
And we've been very fortunate that organizations like yourselves, the Center for Rural Affairs, has stepped forward. And I think we've actually in Nebraska had more than the average number of advocates step forward to help us with this. So we're very grateful for that.
Great. Well, I'll include a link to those registered advocates below in the comments for our viewers to access. So let's finally, I guess the challenge period for this will end on April 14th. What happens after that?
So after we close the challenges, providers will have an opportunity to rebut those challenges with their own evidence. Then our adjudication team will review the challenges and make a determination. Those decisions all get sent on to NTIA for their review. And once the challenge determinations have been approved by NTIA, we will publish those outcomes and update our map accordingly. And that's what determines, the final eligibility for the BEAD funding. Meanwhile, our grants team is working out the next step of our process so that we can actually award grants. So that's going to be a letter of intent to apply, and then the actual application process. And like I said before, and then we hope to start awarding the first round of grants by the end of the year.
Talk about that grant process. Where are those grants being awarded to? Who talk a little bit about that process and where that funding is going.
Well, we don't know yet. That's
Okay.
part of that letter of intent
Okay.
and that application process. So that very first step of the letter of intent, everybody who's intending to apply will have to submit, and there's some screening and criteria where they get kind of rated or ranked.
Okay.
And
will
then
those be internet service providers or?
yes.
Yes. Okay. Well, great. Well, Rachel, thank you again for joining me on the Rural Report. Did you have any other information you want our viewers to know about this process?
Just if they have any questions to email our office.
Well, great. Well, thanks again for joining me, and thanks to all of you for tuning in. If you'd like to learn more about the Center for Rural Affairs, please visit our website at cfra.org. Have a good day, everyone.